We optimized her thyroid, and all of a sudden her A1C dropped to like a 5.4 from an 11.9. She reversed her diabetes and lost 150 pounds.
With or without the GLPs on board.
Still with the GLP, but now it worked. Like she
Yeah.
is a full blown type 2 diabetic. So she needs, that's what the GLPs were designed for originally.
Yeah.
So she needs the GLP. Absolutely. We had to get that A1C of 11.9. That's dangerous. Had to get that down. But it wasn't dropping in the presence of hypothyroidism or non-treated or non-optimized hypothyroidism.
I've created this bone health series, a 5-part bone health series. And we started out with all the different moving parts. And I just recorded the one about stress and sleep and how that affects bones. In the stress part, I learned that actually having a suboptimal thyroid or an unoptimized thyroid is actually detrimental to your bone health. And it was specifically hyperthyroidism or over medicating your thyroid. And that stops the bone from building, the osteoblasts, and promotes the osteoclasts, the bones that are breaking things down. And that was something new that I learned. And I never thought thyroid and bone, but it's all connected. All right. Well, it's a real pleasure to have Dr. Amie Hornaman on the show again. Welcome.
Thanks, Zora. I'm so happy to be here as always. I love your audience.
My audience loves you. They all know you by now because this is your third time, I think, on the show. And we've talked so much about thyroid. And we're going to continue to talk about thyroid because you've got a new book called The Thyroid Fix, the no-nonsense guide to fix fatigue, fogginess, and fat with that dope that won't budge. I just love that. The fatigue, fogginess, and fat.
Exactly. It is what it is. No, we just got to call it out.
Yeah, it's so good. And I got a copy of it, and so I'm excited. Thank you very much. So we can talk a little bit about the book. And I want to just let our listeners know that we have taken deep dives into thyroid. So we're not going to cover sort of those basics. And we've covered testing and labs and meds and supplements, weight loss, weight gain, GLP-1s. Go back to those episodes. I'll have those episodes in the show notes. But this time I really want to cover what's in your book. And so first of all, let's talk about what made you feel this was really the moment to put your full philosophy into a book, and who did you write it for?
So this is like years in the making, right? I've been doing this almost 25, 30 years, something like that. And I always knew there was a book in my head. It just needed to come out on paper. And what's funny is when you're doing this for so long, just like you had mentioned, okay, we already went over the testing, we went over the symptoms, we went over all the basics. But Zora, it is amazing when someone new gets diagnosed with hypothyroidism or a woman thinks that she has a thyroid problem. You got to reel her back all the way to the beginning. It's like, okay, honey, it's going to be okay. We got you, right? We're going to test you. We're going to, it's all going to be good. But I think it's important to lay out the step-by-step process of how to actually address thyroid function from the beginning all the way through to the most common questions and complaints I hear from my community. How do I get the treatment then? How do I find a doctor that's going to do what you're saying to do in this book? And then how do I get the treatment? And so I wanted to put that in the book as well, not just the information, not just the testing, not just the optimal ranges, not just, how to read your labs and how to figure out what medication and dose you need, but then how to actually get it. So I give you all the detailed information, questions to ask when you're first calling to make the appointment, questions to ask when you're in the appointment, how to approach your doctor. And that's really what people need, is that beginning to end protocol, guidance, whatever you want to call it. They need that blueprint so they can actually fix their thyroid and thus fix their life.
It's kind of crazy that we need to take things into our own hands so much. I learned so much from you. And so the women in my community, I'm just sharing what you say. And it's crazy because so many women who come to me are like, well, my doctor's not helping me. My doctor says I'm just looking at my TSH or is not giving me T3. I only take T4, like all these things. And these are seeing like even functional medicine doctors for their thyroid issues, which is kind of crazy. It's not working for them. These women don't feel heard, and they're paying a lot of money to see these specialists. And yes, they're not thyroid specialists, but they're functional medicine. So they think that they're getting someone who understands thyroid better. So what's going on? Why aren't they getting answers, and why are they being totally dismissed? What are these doctors missing?
I know. And I'm really surprised that we don't hear this as a conversation more in the space that we're in. But I call it out all the time. And I call it out in the book. I say a lot of these functional practitioners are masters, or what is it? Jack of all trades, masters of none. That's the saying. Yeah. So what I see, and here's the thing, let's back up. Let's break down the fact that the world of functional medicine, integrative medicine, fantastic. Super excited that it exists because it gives people the alternative to that conventional medicine standard of care model that's driven by insurance companies, telling doctors they have a 5 to 7 minute visit. Here's what you can order for testing. Here's what you can prescribe. You better fall in line with our prescription guidelines. So you feed big pharma giants. Functional medicine isn't that. You know, we are independent. We want to look for the root cause. We don't care about what insurance companies say or what they want to dictate to us. We're going to do what's best for you. Mm-hmm. So overall, great. Awesome.
And one thing, sorry to interrupt, but some people, in case they don't know, because I meet plenty of people who don't know what functional medicine is. And the way you've described it, it gives us an alternative to what the conventional system has. But it's not alternative medicine. You know, when we think about woo or something, it's a combination. These are doctors who went through medical school and they've had that training. It's just that they add on to it and they want it. And like you said, they get to the root cause of something rather than just putting a Band-Aid on it. So sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to clarify.
No,
add on to it if you need.
A perfect, amazing explanation, because that's exactly it. It's getting to the root cause, and it's not alternative. I'm so happy you said that, because when we say alternative, we think like herbs and fairy dust and singing to the sun and doing a rain dance. No. We believe in medications. Like, we use bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. We use thyroid hormone replacement therapy. We will write prescriptions in functional medicine. We're not anti-medication. We're anti-Band-Aid medication. We're the ones saying, excuse me, doc, why are you giving an antidepressant to this woman when she's in menopause and needs some hormones? That's where functional medicine comes in. Now, the problem, though, is that a lot of functional medicine providers are former MDs, DOs that saw the writing on the wall. They saw the fact that, wait a minute, these functional practitioners, they're not dealing with insurance companies and battling them all the time and getting paid $16 for an hour's worth of service. They're charging up front. Oh, yeah, we see dollar signs here. So a lot of conventionally trained MDs, DOs didn't actually go through functional training. They just slapped the functional medicine label on their marketing material and said, screw the insurance, we're just going to start charging people, but they're still practicing in a conventional way. Then you also have the other group of functional providers that they do everything. You look at their website and it's like mold, Epstein-Barr virus, hormones, thyroid, autoimmune, adrenals, your gut, your brain, what do you do well here? Because you can't do all of this well. I mean, that's just human nature. That's like the law of being a human being. You are not going to do everything well. You are going to master one or two things, but you can't do everything at 100%. Mm-hmm. So that's where my red flags go up. And I just try to warn people, like, listen, before you hand over your money, if you are a woman in perimenopause, menopause, maybe you're dealing with a thyroid problem, maybe you're not, do your homework before you hand over your cash. Because just because it has a shiny sign that says functional medicine, that does not mean you are going to get true functional medicine, thyroid and hormone focused expertise. Mm-hmm. Like, it doesn't mean that. And what I see, and I've seen this over and over again, people will come into the clinic with labs that were ordered by their functional provider. I won't even see one of the most important labs you can test for thyroid, reverse T3. I won't even see that on there. And I go, they don't know the thyroid at all. Like, you literally just wasted your money. And usually they'll be like, I know. And I'll say, they obviously don't know the thyroid because they didn't even test one of the most important markers. So that's my in general warning for people. And I go over this in the book and I give you questions to ask even before you hand over your money to a functional provider. You ask questions first because remember, you are hiring your doctor. You're not begging and pleading for your doctor to please treat me. You're giving them money, whether you're giving them a copay and they're running it through your insurance, or you're giving them cash for a cash pay practice. You are hiring them. So if you would hire a contractor to build your house, you wouldn't be like, yeah, you know what? I'll just take that cheap guy down the street that claims that he does everything. Like apparently he's a contractor and a plumber and an electrician and a roofer and a landscaper and he does everything. Like, does he? You really want to trust that dude with building your house because he claims to do everything? No, you want a specific builder for your house, and then you want the plumber, and then you want the specialties. So that's the warning that I give in the book, but also guidance to properly choose.
Yeah, it's so valuable. And whenever somebody has thyroid issues, I send them to you. And I know you and I trust you because I know that's your jam and that's you're really good at. And not everybody has access to you though, so it's always good to read the book and see how else to find others. But I see this in the menopause space too, where you have doctors, even functional medicine doctors, whether they are or they aren't, just slap on the word menopause or hormone therapy. And then I have people going to these doctors and they're so disappointed. They call themselves menopause specialists and they're not giving the right information. They leave in tears and with more questions. And you're like, okay, if they really were a menopause specialist or a menopause specializing in this, they would not leave these women abandoned and feeling worse than when they came in. So it's not just, yeah, it goes for menopause as well. So,
Yeah.
So you mentioned actually you're disappointed to see one of the most important markers, reverse T3, not on these labs. So let's talk about what are the biggest myths about thyroid health that you're still seeing repeated online and maybe in the doctor's office as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's still that standard of care model where you test TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. If TSH is out of range, then you give T4 medication, Levo, Synthroid, pat them on the back, wish them good luck, send them out the door and tell them we'll test you in 6 months. And that standard of care model is being repeated to this day over and over again. Like right now in a doctor's office somewhere, a woman is being handed a script for Synthroid and being sent out the door, told that we'll retest in 6 months. And she's turning around to her doctor going, but I just put on like 30 pounds. I literally can't get through my day. Here's the bag of hair that came out of my head this morning in the shower, and you're going to retest me in 6 months? Seriously, you don't want to know what's going on with me before that? Nope, Sally, that's all right. We're just going to retest that TSH in 6 months and we'll adjust your T4 medication then. That's what's going on.
Yeah, it also sounds like hormones too. If a doctor is going to give hormones, or here, take this general thing and I'll see you in 3 months or so. And meanwhile, it's not working, it's not kicking in, or it's too low, or it's too high, and you're feeling like it's just, why? It's same thing. Just terrible. So this is why we got to take things in our own hands and advocate for ourselves. And this is why you're listening right now, right?
True. There you go.
So when you wrote this book, I mean, it's been years in the making too. So you, as well as many people I know, including me, we're constantly learning and constantly evolving and sometimes even changing our mind. But what is the newest thing that you think you learned about thyroid health in general in the last, say, year or so that you didn't really know before?
It wasn't necessarily something that I had learned, but something that I had discovered, we'll say. So I have a chapter on GLPs and how they
GLPs is, the weight loss peptides and weight loss medications, in case you don't know. Sorry, I want to make sure everybody understands when we start throwing out numbers and words.
No, it's true because, oh my gosh, that's true. I go by the premise that like everybody knows what a GLP is, but no, it's important to spell that out. So GLP, glucagon-like peptide, that's your Wegovy, Trulicity, Ozempic, Mounjaro is the tirzepatide version, or you may have heard biohackers talk about tirzepatide and semaglutide and now retatrutide. So those are all the GLPs. So I have gone through so many different opinions. And honestly, right now, I am still split down the middle. I think GLPs are like a Jekyll and Hyde type of they're a medication, even though they're a peptide. And the reason why I say that is because, on the one hand, when they are used properly, specifically at a true microdose, and I don't mean a microdose that an influencer that has a multi-level marketing company for GLPs is selling you. I mean a true, honest to God microdose that is directed by someone that knows what they're doing. It can help the thyroid. I mean, it can take down inflammation. It can help reduce antibodies. It can literally help your thyroid medication work better to where maybe we pull back on the dose a little bit. And I say this in the book, not that there is a gold star for taking the lowest dose of thyroid medication possible, but because you do want to take the lowest dose of medication possible that is effective, the lowest effective dose possible. We don't want you lower than what is going to work for you. But if we can take your T3, like I did for me, I was on 150 micrograms of T3 per day, 75 twice a day. I've been T3 only for decades. I've been on that dose for decades. When I started taking a GLP, I realized that I didn't need as much, and I started experimenting with myself. So I pulled back just 25 micrograms on one dose. And I did that for a good 3-4 months before I changed again, because I really wanted to see, okay, what are my labs? How am I feeling? What are my labs? How am I feeling? What's going on as I reduce this T3 that I've been on for decades? And things were fine. Labs were normal, felt great, no symptoms, no hypo symptoms came back. So then I did it again. Now, in doing that, in pulling out that 50 micrograms of T3, I still have 100 micrograms of T3 on board. That's still a decent amount of T3, and it's working for me. But by pulling out that extra 50, I am now adding a little bit of a layer of protection to my muscles, because the bottom line is that T3 will burn fat and muscle. Just like GLPs will burn fat and muscle if you take too much of it. And that's the Jekyll and Hyde side. That's the downside of GLPs, is that we do see muscle loss. We do see hair loss when they are used inappropriately at too high of a dose. So when you can combine a microdose of a GLP and the right dose of thyroid medication, you lower your inflammation, you improve your metabolism, you lower your antibodies. Life is good. You're not burning muscle. Life is good. So that was really, I would say, the most interesting thing anecdotally that I've seen in myself and our patients, is that by using a GLP properly, we can actually make the thyroid work better.
Interesting, because I say the same thing about hormones and hormone therapy, and combining it with, like, the GLP-1s work better when you have HRT on board. And super interesting. Like, it's such a new field for me, and I guess the rest of the world, and seeing like what's going to happen, even though GLP has been around for a long time, but it feels like we're in this huge experiment in the last like 5-10 years. Like,
It does.
yeah,
It does. And it's worth saying too, the flip side as well. So you, just like you said, hormones will work better, or wait, you said GLPs will work
GLPs
better with hormones on board.
Yeah.
GLPs will work better when your thyroid is optimized. In fact, GLPs won't work if your thyroid isn't optimized. We had a patient that, she came into the practice, she was on a prescribed GLP for her type 2 diabetes, and it wasn't working. It flat out, she was on it for a year and a half at a macro dose, and it wasn't even budging her A1C. Why? Because her reverse T3 was a 22. She was on T4 only. Her free T3 was in the toilet, which means her thyroid was not optimized whatsoever. So literally the GLP wasn't working. We optimized her thyroid, and all of a sudden, her A1C dropped to like a 5.4 from an 11.9. She reversed her diabetes and lost 150 pounds.
Do it with or without the GLPs on board?
Still with the GLP, but now it worked. Like, she was one, she
Yeah.
is a full-blown type 2 diabetic, so she needs,
Yeah.
that's what the GLPs were designed for originally.
Yeah.
So she needs the GLP. Absolutely. We had to get that A1C of 11.9. That's dangerous. Had to get that down, but it wasn't dropping in the presence of hypothyroidism or non-treated or non-optimized hypothyroidism.
Oh, one thing I learned recently, which I didn't know, because I've created this bone health series, a 5-part bone health series, and we started out with all the different moving parts, and I just recorded the one about stress and sleep. and how that affects bones. And in the stress part, I learned that actually having a suboptimal thyroid or an unoptimized thyroid, I guess, is not is actually detrimental to your bone health. And it was specifically hyperthyroidism or over medicating your thyroid. And that stops the bone from building, the osteoblasts, and promotes the osteoclasts, the bones that are breaking things down. And that was something new that I learned. And I never thought thyroid and bone, but it's all connected.
Oh yeah, yeah, and hypo too, because when you're hypo, low, and slow, that turnover, like the
Yeah.
remodeling of your bone, is
Slow.
slow.
Yeah.
It's slow.
So the osteoclasts speed up with hyper and osteoblasts like slow down with hypo. It's
Hmm.
incredible. It's such an interesting tissue that we have. So, okay, let's talk since we're on the topic of stress and all that. A lot of women are told that their symptoms are just stress or it's just aging or it's just menopause.
Hmm.
So, how can someone tell when their thyroid may just be the missing piece of the puzzle and it's not stress and it's not menopause or hormones?
Yeah, I would say the stacking of symptoms. So with stress, okay, we know that we can gain a little bit of weight, our blood sugar gets dysregulated, maybe we're a little bit fatigued, but that normally comes and goes as the stressful situation diminishes or eventually fades away or you get past it. Whereas thyroid symptoms start stacking. So you're going to have the weight gain and then the inability to lose weight no matter what you do, plus the fatigue, maybe the hair loss or the loss of the outer corners of your eyebrows, or you're cold all the time, or you're constipated or bloated. I mean, you're going to have those stacking symptoms where you can say, you know what, yeah, it's time to get my thyroid tested. And then you can just go get your thyroid tested because that's going to confirm it. When we test your thyroid, when we look at your hormones, then we can say, all right, Sally, I know you're under a lot of stress. Yeah, we're seeing some blood sugar and insulin dysregulation here. That makes sense. But look, we're also seeing, low hormone function, low thyroid function, low free T3, increased reverse T3. And then you'll actually have that black and white data where you can know for sure that stress is either causing thyroid dysfunction or stress is a component, but we also have the thyroid thing going on over here.
Yeah, and stress impacts the thyroid big time as well.
Hmm.
So it's so crazy how it all is interconnected. And so that's why when I get a woman it sounds like you're in menopause or these are clearly menopausal symptoms, and then you can go and test, but I always include full thyroid panel in there too, just to say, is this crossover? Is your hair falling out really because you think it's estrogen loss, or is it something to do with your thyroid? And very often it is the thyroid, but it's because we put this panel in, not just the hormones, right? The
Right.
menopausal hormones. So that's another piece of the puzzle. And if you want all those labs and know what to do and what to order and when to take them, then go and read the book. The Thyroid Fix.
Exactly. We're
It's
not
all
going into
there.
all that today. Go get the book.
Exactly. So let's talk about then some of the lifestyle things that we can do, and maybe specifically what are the ones that are overlooked that actually can quietly wreck thyroid function, even when they think they're doing everything right.
Yeah. So let's go over the lifestyle things with the caveat that I am not in the camp, and this book is not going to make a promise that all you have to do is do these lifestyle things and your thyroid will be fine. So I know there's a lot of books out there, and that's another reason why I wrote this, because I'm like, oh my God, nobody is just saying the truth that you cannot sleep your way to good thyroid function, nor can you keto your way, ground your way, walk in the sunlight, breathe fresh air your way to good thyroid function. You're going to have to layer things. So, what we're talking about is the foundation. You have to have a good foundation. We can't put thyroid hormone replacement or even supplements to support your thyroid on top of a dumpster fire. So if you're treating your body like a circus, just stop. None of us are night owls. Don't tell yourself you're a night owl. You're not a night owl. You need sleep, and you need that sleep between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. because you are a human being, and we're all human beings, and none of us are night owls. We weren't built that way. So sleep is vital, of course. If you're not sleeping, your glucose will be up. You'll be insulin resistant. That's going to push up your reverse T3. That's going to increase thyroid antibodies if you have autoimmune conditions. So we have to have that foundation of sleep. Then we move over to nutrition. Okay, again, if you are eating processed foods and eating a ton of sugar, then you are going to increase your insulin. Again, you're going to increase your glucose. You're going to increase your reverse T3. That's going to decrease your free T3. It's going to increase your antibody. Yeah, clean up your diet. Now, whether or not you have to go keto, carnivore, we don't know. And in fact, one thing that the Thyroid Fix isn't, it's not a recipe book and it's not a diet book. We go over different eating plans in there that you can choose from because everybody has their thing and everybody has to find their way. I am not dogmatic in that everyone should be carnivore, everyone should be keto. There's a time and place. If you have high antibodies, sure, do carnivore for a couple of months because it's going to significantly lower your inflammation and your antibodies, but you don't have to do that forever. I talk about a diet that one day I'll write a book on, another one called the Paleo diet, blending paleo and keto concepts, where you're still low carb, but you're not eating bacon and cheese all day long, right? So I think with the lifestyle piece, it is about building the foundation. Now, I go into a couple different biohacks. GLPs are one, red light therapy is another, because, oh my goodness, Laura, I tried really hard to find counter evidence to red light therapy. Like literally, I tried to find the opposite. I didn't want to find the pro. I wanted to find the con because I'm sitting here going, okay, you and I both love red light. We use it. But really, does it work? Like shining a red light on my thyroid, does it really work? Or is this a bunch of hype?
Yeah.
So I looked and looked and looked. And by God, it works. Like it actually works. There are numerous studies on red light therapy showing a decrease of antibodies, a decrease of inflammation, and improvement in thyroid function to where I'm like, it's got to go in the book because there's enough evidence here.
Significantly? Like, by how much? Do you know? Do you remember?
I don't remember stats. It was too long ago that I put that in the book.
Yeah,
I
but it
don't
must have
remember
been
the stats.
significant. Because
Yeah.
sometimes you go, okay, it lowers it, but you're like, okay, by how much? Or sometimes these studies about hormones, and it's like, it increases your estradiol by 50%, but these women were starting with like 10 picograms per ml, or like, well, big deal. It depends. Sometimes I wonder how significant is it? And I have women in my community who say they've improved their thyroid with red light therapy. And I have a much smaller community than you do. So I bet you probably have some much more anecdotal evidence as well. I know you like the research and the studies are important, but if it's not in clinical practice, because sometimes in the research, you had to do it every day, three times a day, and nobody's doing it every day, three times a day. Like, and it's just not practical. But maybe
True.
I'm wondering what you're seeing actually in your community, if you've seen anything at all.
Well, and again, it doesn't work in isolation. So, no, are you going to shine a red light on your thyroid while you're seeing a conventional medicine doctor who has you on T4 only and you have an elevated reverse T3 and a low free T3? Is red light going to make things better? No, no, not at all. It has to be done in conjunction with proper treatment, the foundation, the sleep, the nutrition, the supplementation. You have to have all of it in the pot at the same time to make really the perfect soup. My analogy. You got to have it all in.
Yeah, yeah, it's usually such a much more holistic approach to things. I want to know, it's because the women in our community as well, we tend to be fasting too much, I think, and we're not eating enough calories, and we're typical just exercising too much, eating too little. And I'm wondering, and in my own self, I was one of these people who would exercise in a fasted state for years. Like I thought that was good for me until I found out it wasn't, and my thyroid was going down. And so I've tried many things, but actually eating within an hour for me of waking, which I was never doing before, is moving the dial. And so I sometimes wonder, I always like to get to the root cause. Sometimes I say, great, get on the medication, fine, but let's figure out like why is your thyroid not working like it should? So how much of an impact does fasting or not eating, delaying, I guess, breakfast or something impact the thyroid?
So, we don't have a lot of evidence, like studied research, papers, that kind of, when I say evidence, that kind of evidence with fasting, but we have a lot of anecdotal.
Mm.
So what I find with women, and it is funny, we kind of went through that fasting craze,
Mhm.
what, from maybe, I don't know, 2020 until I don't really hear about it as much
Yeah.
recently. So I'll say 2020 to 2024 slash five. It was still kind of the fasting craze, but it's definitely died down because I think people have realized that fasting for women, you really don't want to go. I don't like anything over a 16-hour fast. Multiple reasons. Number one, if you fast too much, it is a stressor on the body. Now, we know the thyroid responds to stress. I mean, the thyroid is literally a canary in the coal mine. When you are stressed out, whether you know it or not, your thyroid will downregulate because it's protecting you. So, what it's going to do is it's going to increase reverse T3, our survival mechanism hormone. When reverse T3 climbs, it's the body's way of saying, you know what? Let's just lock things down here. This person is under a large amount of something like stress and injury and illness. I don't know what's going on in this body, but holy hell, at this point in time, we don't need this person to burn fat. We don't need to grow her hair. We don't need her to have energy. Maybe she poops once every 3 days. It doesn't matter. We just need to help her survive this stressor. And all you're doing is fasting too much. So you're not being chased by a bear. You're not dying in the ICU or the ER. You weren't just in a car accident. You're just fasting too damn much. And your body thinks it's a mega stressor. So that's what it does. And what I've seen is that women who fast too much, and by too much, I mean over 16 hours, they don't get in enough protein. So that's a whole other discussion right there. They're wondering why they're tired, why their hair is falling out, why their skin looks like crap. It's like, well, you're getting in 50 or 60 grams of protein in your 2 meals a day that you're taking in. That's not enough. Now, is that going to affect the thyroid? No, but the fasting in and of itself is going to affect the thyroid. So, because it sees it as a stressor. And that's going to just do exactly what we just said, raise reverse T3, downregulate thyroid production, downregulate your active thyroid hormone. So it can actually work against you. And this is where we see, and I know you've seen it in your community, women saying, I'm fasting and I'm gaining weight. Right. Yeah, because it's too much of a stress. You're doing it too much.
Yeah. Yeah. So I always say just experiment, eat something and see what happens, or change a bit. Yeah. Just eat a little bit more carbs or a bit more calories and see what happens, or start eating a little bit earlier in the day. And again, I don't know what experiment's going to happen, but that's what I liked about the biohacking world, is like, you just try. Of course, talk to your doctor if you have any obvious medical issues, but it's always interesting to see how our body responds. And I've seen things where I thought would be really great, and in the end, it just backfired for somebody, but that's the experiment.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, I was told by somebody else who I respect and knows a lot about nutrition and all that. And I was taken aback and I was thinking, I got to ask Amie about this. It's about oatmeal. And he said, oatmeal is horrible for the thyroid. And it's talking about some chemical structure or whatever. And I love oatmeal, but,
I love you,
or oats,
Zora.
but is it true? Do I have to put my oatmeal away?
So again, I don't know of anything directly correlating oats with the thyroid. However, there's no such thing as a gluten-free oat. So when
There
we talk
isn't?
about no,
It's on the
that's
package.
total marketing. I know. So wait, when we talk, like when we say, okay, what is gluten? What's the common phrase said after that? Oat, wheat, barley, rye. Oat, wheat, barley, rye. Those are your foods that contain gluten.
Yeah.
So oats are the first one that said. Now, yeah, there's no such thing as a gluten-free oat. And you know what? I've even seen from back in my bodybuilding days, oatmeal was obviously like one of those staples. It's like oatmeal, chicken, fish, asparagus, and rice on rotate. And oatmeal would always cause my female athletes that I was working with and myself always cause weight gain, always spike insulin. It was like,
Yeah.
why are we doing oatmeal like these 220-pound bodybuilder dudes? Like, no, we shouldn't. And yeah, I love it, but I don't like it for in general food purposes for my ladies or for myself. But I do splurge on it once in a while.
Okay, wait. I'm disappointed that that on the label says gluten-free oats. Like, how do they get away with that? How
That's a
do
good
how
question.
how
I
can
don't
you?
know.
If there is no such thing, I thought the gluten-free oats that I bought were actually gluten-free. I mean, but you can't label that because somebody who's, let's say, celiac and they looking for gluten-free, they couldn't eat then the gluten-free oat, is what you're saying.
Yeah, technically, yes, that's true. Now, there might be celiacs out there that are listening and going, I feel fine on the gluten-free oatmeal.
Mm.
And that's fine. I mean, find your way. And some celiacs, as we know, are less reactive than others.
Hmm.
But if you really think about it, you go, okay, gluten, here's the problem with gluten. It contains a protein called gliadin. And when we look at gliadin under a microscope, it has a very similar molecular structure to the thyroid gland. So
Mm.
when we're talking about someone that has autoimmune, specifically Hashimoto's, where your body is attacking your own thyroid because it thinks it's a bad guy, and we eat gluten containing gliadin, your antibodies or your soldiers see that molecule coming in. They think it's the thyroid because it looks like it. It looks like it in chemical structure. So they just follow their orders. It's the signal to go out and attack this invader. And that's essentially what you're doing. So I wouldn't take the chance personally if I'm a person with Hashimoto's, and I am, if
Mhm.
I'm a person with Hashimoto's, I wouldn't take the chance of consuming gluten on the regular because every time I do that, I'm increasing that autoimmune attack on my thyroid and I'm potentially even increasing my antibodies. Sometimes, even when we look at antibodies on a lab, I'll have a woman that's like, oh my gosh, my antibodies, they increased by 50. Should I be worried? I'm like, yeah, you probably got gluten. So gluten will increase your antibodies as well.
Why don't you name a few other gluten, I guess, things that have gluten that we didn't know have gluten? Like that surprised me, the whole gluten-free oat thing. I know a lot of people are usually surprised by soy sauce. There's gluten in soy sauce. So they always associate it with bread or pasta or something like that.
Salami. So
Salami? Salami's got gluten?
you got to flip over the label. So here I am buying lunch meat one day, not from the deli, but from like the conventional case or whatever. And I try to go for like the natural. I'm in a hunting camp. So I'm buying lunch meat, people.
Hmm.
And so I don't know what made me flip over this pack of lunch meat. My husband loves salami. So I grabbed it and I flipped it over and I went, why is there wheat in here? Why would you put wheat in salami? So
Yeah.
yeah, salami is one. A lunch meat. You want to double check. You just have to read the label because these days you literally don't know. It could be in condiments. It can be in lunch meat. It can be just be
Yeah.
hidden in things. So you really don't know.
It's always funny when my husband, when he shops with me, he knows to be patient because I'm reading all the labels and now I take photos of them and have to enlarge them. I'm like, hang
Uh-huh.
on, honey. Or if my daughter's there, I'm like, okay, read it. What's in
Yep.
there? And then the moment she starts to fumble on the words, like can't pronounce them, I'm like, okay, put it away. It's not it. But when he likes lunch meat, and we're in Spain or Portugal, and so you have lovely jamon and these loads of ham, I guess. And but most of it has a ton of chemicals in it, all these E numbers and all this sugar, and then maybe wheat. I don't know. There's just long list. I'm like, it's just a piece of ham. Like, why? How? They're all preservatives. But you can find what I taught him is to turn over the label and it just says the meat or whatever that is and salt. And we
Yes.
can find it. It's rare. And he pulls out a bunch of stuff first because he reads the label on the front that says gluten free or whatever. Sounds healthy. It's like the marketing thing. So he's like, oh, here's a good one. And then I turn it over and I'm like, the long list, even though it is so deceiving that, yeah, it's healthy or free and it's got a green color or something on it or a leaf. You're like,
Yeah.
you turn it over. But that's what I do when I look at my sardines. It's got to have either olive oil and salt and the sardine. It's so simple. Like you got
Hmm.
to be able to read the words and it exists there, but usually it's like 1 out of 10 or 20 out in the shelf. So it's really annoying. So anyways, yeah. I just didn't think there would be gluten in salami, but yeah,
Oh
that's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. I mean, serious. The alternative name for this podcast can be like marketing scams beware because we're giving everybody the behind the scenes of like shocking truths about what you're being marketed with. It's true though, that little green leaf, you think it's good. You see the word organic, you think it's good.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay, you mentioned you had Hashimoto's and have your own thyroid issues yourself, which is how you even got into this space as well. So I'm kind of wondering, and you're helping a lot of women now see the light because you, like everyone else, kind of went down this rabbit hole and saw the traditional doctors and then really found your way. But maybe you can tell us, like, what, looking back now, what was the root cause of your Hashimoto's, if you ever figured that out? And then what's something someone who's sort of just starting their journey where you were at years and years ago can learn about?
Yeah, absolutely. So I truly believe that my root cause was the up and down dieting that I did when I was competing.
The what?
By
Up and
the
down
time that
dieting. Ah,
Oh yeah. Yeah, because it's a stressor on the body. So whenever you over exercise and under eat, that is a huge stressor. So what do we know about autoimmunity? When we think of autoimmunity, I always reference the three-legged stool. Alessio Fasano years ago gave this analogy and I love it. So on the one leg of the stool, in order for autoimmune to exist, you have to have the three legs or else the stool tips over, right? So the one leg, you have that genetic predisposition. You can't do anything about it. Your mom, your grandma, your aunt, your sister had some kind of autoimmune, maybe Hashimoto's, and you have that genetic predisposition. Or maybe you have another autoimmune condition. The other leg of the stool is leaky gut, which 99.999% of all of us have leaky gut because of the toxic soup world that we live in. Unless you're living like in the forest in a bubble and not exposed to anything that you don't grow or kill, you're being exposed and you probably have leaky gut. And then that third leg is the trigger. That's the stressor. So that can be anything from the stress that we talked about earlier, not sleeping, over fasting, but it can be under eating and over exercising as well. It can be hormonal shifts like pregnancy, perimenopause, menopause. So any kind of stressor is going to turn on that autoimmune switch from the opposition to the opposition. And for me, I truly believe it was over exercising and under eating because I did that over and over again in order to get ready for a show. No, it wasn't healthy. It was a challenge. It was part of the contest prep. It was part of me getting ready for the sport that I chose, but it still isn't healthy. I mean, it's like wrestlers. Like you think it's healthy for wrestlers to diet down and lose all their water? No, it's not healthy, but it's part of the sport. So same with competing in bodybuilding. It's part of the sport, but it
so
causes issues.
do a lot of athletes or bodybuilders have thyroid issues?
Yeah, I would say yes. Sometimes it is because of what we do, and other times it's because, so I always joke, bodybuilders were actually the OGs of biohacking.
Yeah.
And we were trying peptides before all you biohackers out there are, but they also abuse T3. I mean, that's the bottom line is any drug is fair game if you can get it on the black market. So yeah, bodybuilders would use T3 in order to lose body fat because that's what it'll do. It'll speed up your metabolism,
Oh,
but it will also cause a thyroid problem because of the negative feedback loop. So if you take thyroid hormone and you don't need. Now T2 is
um,
different. We talked about that on the last episode.
yeah.
That's totally different. That doesn't cause the negative feedback loop, but T3 will. And so a lot of times they'll come out the other side of a show with a thyroid problem.
Oh, crazy. Crazy. Okay. So I guess one tip that when women start looking down right away is you yo-yo dieting, which is interesting because I interviewed Dr. William Lee, who said his whole actually it was the reel that I think I used is like yo-yo dieting can be good for you. And I was like, what? I didn't know the thyroid thing. I would have thrown that at him. But he said it's because any weight loss is better than no weight loss, which he says you are getting some benefits. You going back, but there's a period of time where you're having some benefits. However, when I was studying gerontology with Dr. Walter Longo, and he's like,
Yeah.
anti-protein guy, and he was saying, I always remember, he said, it's better to be fat and stay fat than go up and down in terms of yo-yo dieting. So it's yeah, what do we do? Choose
Right.
one that you want. You'll feel better. It's just
Yeah.
crazy. But both will probably wreck your thyroid either way.
Well, I can see William Lee's point in that if you can lose the weight and not rebound higher, and that's really, I mean, that's what my body used to do. That's why I would never, ever recommend competing ever, because you'll lose 20 and gain 30, and then you'll lose 30 and gain 40. So it's always like, you're always gaining more because you're putting your body through hell. I mean, you're basically putting it in a starvation mode, even though you're not starving, your calories are super low. And we know, I mean, that old principle from like the 1980s, the starvation principle that you and I learned about way back when, that when you don't eat enough calories, your body says, hey, we're going to store this fat on your body for future famine. That's real. I mean, I don't care if you believe in calories in, calories out or not. The starvation principle is real. So, yeah, when you starve yourself like that, you can overcome that principle enough for a show. And then your body just slips you the bird and is like, you're done now? Cool. Here comes the 30 pounds. So it happens.
Did I tell you the story? My husband, he walked
No.
across Europe. He took 11 months to almost a year to walk across Europe diagonally, and every day walking a lot, and he got fat. And I was like, what? Because he was not fueling. He was not, he would walk all day. I mean, he'd have a piece of toast or something for breakfast and a coffee, walk all day, and then have one meal. And I'm like, dude, you're like, okay, do you think an Olympic athlete would just go and all that? Not that you're an Olympic athlete, but you're doing something pretty heroic, I mean, pretty demanding on the body. And so that's why when I look at those apps that say, oh, just walk 15 minutes a day, lose weight, I'm like, no, it's not just that. I mean, it's good to
Right.
walk, it's good to get started, and you may lose some weight, but that's not the only thing. And the fuel is so important. And here
Mhm.
you did this for a whole year practically, and you're not fueling the machine.
Right.
So we need
Yeah.
it. We need our fuel.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Let's talk a little bit more about the book. If a woman's reading, she reads your book and realizes, okay, wow, this is totally me. What are the first three steps you think you'd like her to take?
So if she's reading and she's just reading like the symptoms, and I do have wacky symptoms in there too. We always talk about the weight gain and the hair loss and the fatigue and this, but I also have, migraines, frozen shoulder, joint pain, all of those symptoms that you wouldn't really think about, but that absolutely are tied to the thyroid. So she's reading through, she's like, oh my gosh, yes, I have all of these symptoms. Or maybe she already knows that she has a thyroid problem, but she still has the symptoms because she's not being treated properly. So next step is testing. I mean, you have to start with testing. Now, with that being said, I firmly stand on the belief that testing is data, but you are more than a lab value.
Mhm.
So we still have to overlay how you feel, which those four words, if a practitioner isn't asking you, you need to find a new practitioner. If you're not being asked, how do you feel? If your practitioner doesn't care about your symptoms and just wants to read labs, that's not good. That's not a good sign. So we overlay your symptoms with your labs to get that full picture of what's going on inside your body. Now we have a direction, right? So now we know, okay, here's what we need to do. Here's where we're at in this person's journey. So then it becomes, and I say this in the book too, a choose your own adventure. So do you want to go this way or you want to go that way? Which way do you think you need to go? Now, again, I am not, what this book is not is how to heal your thyroid naturally. I have a chapter in that, but I guarantee you the women that are picking up this book, they're far past that natural window. That natural window occurs like in your 20s and 30s where you're like, maybe a little bit of thyroid dysfunction is coming on. We'll see a couple of antibodies pop up. Labs still look good. This person has like one symptom. This is like the 25-year-old that's like, I'm a little fatigued. Okay, we can totally do things naturally. Let's add in some black cumin seed to push down your antibodies. Let's give you some nutrients and whatever, and you'll be fine. Most of the time, at this point, you need intervention. You need hormone intervention. It's like the woman that's 60 years old. And she's like, do I need hormones? It's like, well, honey, you're not aging in reverse like Benjamin Button. So probably. So the same thing. It's like once you get to a certain point, just add in the thyroid hormone because it's going to give you your life back. And the bottom line in all that we do, this entire podcast, the goal is to live our best life and be healthy while doing it. So in order to do that, we have to get rid of the symptoms. We can't live our best life if we're overweight. We can't live our best life if we're constantly focused on the hair that's coming out of our head. We can't live our best life if we're dragging ourselves through the day, taking another nootropic pill to hopefully light our brain up.
Yeah.
So it's all about reducing symptoms. So once you get the testing done, now we can figure out, what do we need to do? What do we need to do hormone replacement wise to move the needle for you? And then that's what we figure out. And then you sprinkle on the supplements for support. Absolutely. That's part of the foundation we're talking about. And then you can add in some of the biohacking, and that's fantastic. But unless you have the testing, unless you have the proper treatment, then all of this other stuff isn't going to work.
That makes perfect sense. It's so clear and it's so simple, right? Just test, and get the right treatment. Okay, I want to get to, we've got a rapid fire coming up and I really want to get to that. But one question I do have on my mind though, is because you've been doing this for so long, have you ever changed your mind about anything in thyroid health over the years that made its way into the book? Something that's,
Yes.
what is it?
I have. It's a very interesting question. Like, as soon as you said that, I was like, oh my gosh, I really haven't I? So yes, a natural desiccated thyroid medication. So NDT. NDT is fantastic. NDT is the original thyroid medication. Late 1800s is when we started using it. And basically it's dried pig porcine thyroid gland. And dry it out, we remove anything that's bad in there and put it in a pill. Now, for many, many, many people, changing from synthetic T4 monotherapy, T4 only, which is standard of care, we already talked about that, changing from that to 80% T4, 20% T3, where you're getting 20% of that active thyroid hormone, is a beautiful thing. And NDT also contains T1, T2, and T3, and T4. Fantastic. So this used to be kind of like the gold standard. I know a lot of functional and integrated practitioners still hang their hats on NDT. Well, so do we for the right person. What I have found is that it does not work for everyone. And even thyroid experts out in this space are not talking about this, but I am. That if you think about it, if you have Hashimoto's, so we already defined that, we already kind of gave the analogy that Hashimoto's, those antibodies are like soldiers that are confused. They think your thyroid is a bad guy, so they go out and attack it. Now, follow me here. Now we orally take a pig's thyroid gland that is supposed to be identical to the human thyroid gland. And we have soldiers that want to attack thyroid gland. A lot of people are getting an autoimmune attack when they take NDT.
It's too close to our own.
Oh. And it doesn't happen in everyone, but it does happen in some people. That made me go, wait a minute, everyone is bashing the synthetics. They always go, synthetic T4, it's fake T4, synthetic T3, it's fake T3. I'm like, I've been on synthetic T3 and I'm rocking life. We have a lot of people on T4 and T3 that are living their best life. So it's not a problem to change to, and I call them biosynth, because they are biologically identical to the T4 and the T3 that your body makes. They're just synthesized in a lab, yes, but they still are biologically identical. So if we have to change you from NDT to the biosynth, that's fine. That's okay. Some people just don't do very well on the NDT, and you'll hear it. You'll actually hear women say, changed over to Armour, did good for like a couple of weeks, maybe a month, and then, yeah, not so much. I got worse. I'm like,
but you said bioidentical, biosense. I'm not sure what that is, but wouldn't that be even closer to the human body?
There's an argument in that, because let's say liothyronine, T3, because liothyronine is synthesized in a lab and it is called synthetic T3. People think in their mind bad, because when we say synthetic hormones like birth control, that is a synthetic progesterone. It is a progestin. It is not at all identical to the progesterone that your body actually makes. Naturally, we hear that word synthetic and we think bad. But yes, you are right. You have to break down each one. So when we say the term, and I just made up the term biosynth. Like instead of saying synthetic, I say biosynthetic, biosynth, because it gives people in their mind a different view of that medication. So they don't automatically stick a bad sticker on the word synthetic when they hear it and then they go, I don't want that. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, wait, what if you need that? So I want you to be open to whatever combination we have to do to get you better. But going back to your original question, it was the NDT that I've been finding like, wait a minute, this actually is spurring on autoimmune attacks, and very few people are talking about it.
Oh, interesting. Biosynthesis, like the reverse marketing that we just talked about. This stuff is good. I got to put something on there to make sure you don't think it's bad. Interesting. But yes, it's like any medication or any hormones or quote unquote natural hormone or whatever you want to call it. We can't 100% everybody respond exactly the same. So there are people who respond, people who don't, people who respond well, and people who don't respond well at all. So it's just no different. It was just like, I think we get so stuck on if we take something, we'll want to 100% guarantee it's going to work great for us. And again, when you try medicine or a doctor prescribes you something, you're biohacking yourself. Like you're trying something out, right?
Yes, you are. It's
No
true. Yeah.
guarantees. And that's what we got to do is just try to keep advocating for ourselves. So, all right, let's do this rapid fire. This is the most fun part of the podcast.
I love this.
So we're going to talk about the thyroid, but we're going to have short answers or one word answers. We're not going to have long explanations. We had a chance to do that. And if not, we'll record again, but try to answer as short as you can. And then we'll talk about the answers later. Okay.
All right.
Okay. One lab marker you never ignore.
Reverse T3.
I knew you were going to say that. Just said it. If you've been listening, girls, to the episode, she said it at the beginning. Most overrated thyroid test.
TSH.
Yeah. One symptom women dismiss that screams thyroid issue.
Frozen shoulder.
Most common mistake women make when trying to fix their thyroid.
Taking selenium only and thinking that's going to do the job.
Ah, okay. I thought you were going to say T4 only.
That's too obvious.
Yeah.
I wanted to pull from the non-obvious.
Yeah. Selenium. Okay. One supplement almost everyone with thyroid issues should consider.
Iodine.
Most misunderstood thyroid medication.
Liothyronine T3.
Coffee with thyroid meds. Is that fine or a problem?
Absolutely not. No.
One food that can support thyroid function.
Brazil nuts.
I knew it. Yes. Yay. Win. And then one food that destroys thyroid function.
Too much soy.
Ah, I thought you were going to say oats.
Oh, well, the oats. Yeah. That's true.
Too
Gluten,
much
yes,
soy.
always.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. One lifestyle habit that hurts the thyroid the most.
Over dieting, under eating.
Yeah. It's like this rapid fire is almost like a test. Did you listen?
It's like a test.
The biggest red flag that your doctor doesn't understand thyroid health.
It doesn't order all the tests.
Yeah.
Doesn't order free T3, reverse T3.
One thing you wish every woman knew before age 40 about her thyroid.
Your chances of going through Thyropause are about 80%, and that means your thyroid is going to crap the bed after the age of 40.
We got a whole episode on Thyropause that I'll link in the show notes if you don't know what Thyropause is. And if your thyroid is optimized, how should you feel in one word or one sentence?
Freaking amazing.
Can you grow back your thyroid?
Yes.
And one word to describe your book, The Thyroid Fix.
The Thyroid Bible. Bible.
Love it. Oh my gosh, this was so fun. This is so fun. Dr. Amie Hornaman, such a pleasure to have you on the show again. You're always welcome. We're always have such a fun time with you. And we learned so much. I learn every time I'm with you and I keep learning. And if anyone wants to reach out to you, we've got your website. Is it dramie.com?
Yep. dramie.com. Yep.
Yeah. And you also have the betterlifedoctor.com. Is that where we can find your shop?
Yep. Those are all the fixer supplements. Absolutely. Yep.
Cool. And I'll have links to your podcast, your Instagram, your Facebook, your YouTube. It'll all be there in the show notes. And is there anything else you'd like to leave our audience with before I let you go?
Well, thyroidfixbook.com is where you get the book. Not sure when this is being released or when you're actually listening to this as a listener, but if you grab the book before May 16th, we are doing an all-day live event where we're going to be giving away prizes. I'm doing lab reads, I'm doing live Q&As, I'm having guests on. It is going to be a ton of fun, and you get a free ticket to the Zoom portion. Now, it's going to be broadcast on YouTube, but if you actually want to participate, if you want to ask questions, if you want to have your labs read, if you want to win all these a boatload of prizes, then you want to buy the book so you get that Zoom link. That is your ticket to the event.
Oh, I love it. Okay. And you did send me a link for the book, where to find the book, right?
Yep.
And that got to get that before May 16th. We'll have this episode before then. So that's exciting. That's fun to have book launch. I know it's a lot of work, but it is paying off, and so many women are learning so much from you. And thank you so much, Dr. Amie, for your time. And thank you everyone who's been listening. We wouldn't be here without you. And thank you for listening to the end. You're obviously very interested in thyroid health, and we will see you again, and have a wonderful day. Good night, good morning, wherever you're at, and we'll see you next time. Take care.